When people ask you, what are you? I think printmaker is probably the most close term. The print is the thing, not the image. And I think that goes back to being very preoccupied with the surface and what that's communicating and how that's been arrived at. These feel kind of closer to how I might have been thinking about making paintings than anything I've done before.
So I wanted to start by asking you about your subjective, what you brought into this room. What are the things, the factors, the experiences that really you see as the constellation that you brought into this commission?
Yeah, that's quite a complex set of things to map out. What worked for me really beautifully with this commission was that there was a history prior to coming to look at the Armada portrait. I think I felt like that, sort of navigating a relationship with something like this painting, which I wouldn't have thought was in my territory, just became it became a very interesting journey. In terms of somebody towards the end of their life, I think that's why I chose the title Mortal Moon, from the Shakespeare sonnet, which was about her at the end. She learned astrology, and I just decided to look up her birth chart. And it was just incredibly interesting to see what her sun and moon were and where her planets were. Her sun was in Virgo, which obviously relates directly to the painting. Her moon was in Taurus, but there were a lot of things, in her horoscope. So I just became interested in the celestial globes from another point of view, which I think was the point at which it ceased being the fulfilling of a brief, and became something more alive. I kind of felt liberated by the painting to think about bringing in my own emblematic devices to sort of say things that I wanted to say. So the frames for the pictures, for the prints, are my framings for what's going on in each print in terms of the references. We've got empty shells, which is a sort of motif for you could say a vacant womb rather than a potentially productive stage of life. It's another stage of life, and the sort of stage of the moon was sort of brought in to refer to that. And there are sort of things that I've picked up from the painting, like I guess it's all fairly fluid, but the pearl could be the moon or vice versa, yes. And the mermaid figures in the moon in Taurus piece. So I think there's references to direct things like pearling and trade routes and plunder and what was going on in the physical reality, but there's also a kind of underlying set of fluid meanings.
Yeah.
As looking at that painting, it's not deconstructed for you, but it works on you, even if it's in ways that you don't know the reading of every single thing in that image. So I was always sort of trying to see underneath or behind, or look at what lies behind what you see, because of a kind of fundamental mistrust in what you see, or a mistrust in how you record what you think you've seen. And how you communicate with that. That sort of always seemed like something to explore the behind or underneath of, or get inside of. And that was kind of the drive in early work. But I think in the later work, it's like moving around to not looking outward or below, but sort of reflecting inward a lot more. But I think it's the consequence of having internalised and thought about a lot of experiences, you know, and as you said, Charlotte, your life experiences get mapped onto external experiences and then get kind of processed in a different way over time.
One of the kind of key things which, I mean, I'm sort of hesitating as I'm saying this because it's like if somebody then asks you, so which bits are digital and which bits are analog, I'm going to cry. But there is something there, as I think of you as an artist who, your narrative was made, I think, or sort of begun with such a pronounced sense of this direct relationship of analog photographic materials to ostensible subject or phenomena. That you work with digital now, and I just wondered what that was for you, about what within your atmospherics makes that the choice that you would make.
Yeah, I think there's a sort of double thing that's happened. Initially, I think I was trying with the analog cameraless processes. After a period of time, I was trying to bring in the kind of layering that's going on in these prints. You know, I was trying to do that in a very kind of clumsy way. I was using internegs and projections and film to layer in different levels, and it was working kind of okay, but you know, as soon as I was forced physically to sort of move across, I just found suddenly I was enabled, you know, to make work that I'd been struggling to make, you know, with an analog sort of set of things, but the language just seamlessly for me carried through. So for me it hasn't felt like such a sort of huge leap, but I think what has really changed is really strong awareness now of actually being physically unable to pour things down the drain, or even have my chemistry taken away, which I was doing for a long period of time. It's not unfamiliar to how it was in around 2009 or so, when I was thinking about what to do in terms of moving across to a different use of the medium. I think there's a similar kind of, it's a different time, you know, at the moment.
And that's the sustainable idea of what it is to be an artist, which is to be able to discover through making in dramatically different circumstances, to navigate that. And I really applaud you for doing that. It's remarkable, but it's also really it makes me enormously happy as your friend to see that you're off on the next tide in your boat.